Ah, there you are. Come closer. Yeah, you, the one who thought nobody saw, the one who's been moving through this world like a ghost carrying gifts nobody asked for, the one who helped without hashtags, who gave without receipts, who showed up without cameras rolling. You thought you were invisible, didn't you? You thought your kindness was falling into a void, evaporating the moment it left your hand. But here's what you didn't know, couldn't know, weren't supposed to know yet. Someone has been watching, not with judgment, not with suspicion, but with the kind of attention reserved for rare things. And after all this time, after all those silent acts you performed when no one was looking, they've decided it's time. Time to step out of the shadows and reveal what they've seen. Let me tell you something about the world you've been navigating. It's built on a transaction economy. People smile when cameras are on. They donate when there's a tax write-off. They volunteer when it looks good on a resume. Kindness has become currency, performance, strategy. But you did something profoundly dangerous in a world like this. You helped without the transaction. You gave without the audience. You showed up without the applause. And in doing so, you became visible to a completely different set of eyes. Not the crowd, not the algorithm, not the validation machine. You became visible to the people who actually matter, the ones with real power, the ones who've been waiting for someone like you to emerge from the noise. They've been cataloging your moves. That time you stayed late to help someone finish their project when you had your own deadlines screaming. That moment you paid for someone's groceries when you barely had enough for your own. That conversation where you talked someone back from the edge at 3 a.m, sacrificing your sleep, your peace, your energy. You thought those moments dissolved into the air. You thought they were just you being you. Nothing special, nothing noteworthy. But someone was taking notes. Someone was building a file, not the kind that exposes you, the kind that elevates you. Because in a world drowning in performative kindness, authentic action stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. And lighthouses, they don't go unnoticed by ships looking for shore. Here's what they saw that you didn't see. They saw consistency. Not the viral moment, not the grand gesture that gets shared 10,000 times, but the daily repetition of decency. They saw you choose kindness when you were tired, when you were broke, when you were heartbroken yourself. They watched you give from an empty cup and somehow not turn bitter. They observed you getting stepped on, taken advantage of, used up by people who saw your kindness as weakness. And they waited to see if you'd break, if you'd finally snap and become like everyone else, transactional, guarded, cynical. But you didn't. You kept going. And that's when they knew. You weren't performing. You weren't strategizing. You were just built different. And different, when it's real, when it's sustained, when it's tested and doesn't break, that becomes invaluable. Now, let's talk about who this watcher is. Not some mystical force, not some cosmic accountant in the sky keeping score. No, this is flesh and blood. This is someone who moves in circles you don't even know exist yet. Someone who's been exactly where you are, who understands what it costs to stay soft in a hard world. Someone who has resources, access, influence, and most importantly, the wisdom to recognize real when they see it. They've been burned by the fakers, exhausted by the performers, disappointed by the ones who talked a good game but folded under pressure. And then they found you, not through your resume, not through your social media following, not through any traditional metric. They found you through your actions when you thought no one was looking. And that's the only metric that matters to people operating at that level. They've been watching how you treat people who can do nothing for you, how you interact with the server, the janitor, the person everyone else ignores. They've been observing how you handle rejection, how you process disappointment, whether you let bitterness poison your next interaction. They've seen you get betrayed and still show up with an open heart the next day. They've watched you sacrifice opportunities because they required you to compromise your integrity, and every single time you made the harder choice, the one that cost you something, they added another note to your file. Not to use against you, but to build a case for you. Because the world you're about to be invited into doesn't run on cleverness or connections or charisma. It runs on trust. And trust can't be performed. It can only be demonstrated over time when you don't know you're being evaluated. Here's what's about to happen. An opportunity is coming. Not the kind you apply for, not the kind you network your way into. The kind that finds you. It might look like a random conversation, a chance encounter, an unexpected message. But it won't be random. It'll be calculated, timed, orchestrated by someone who's been waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And when they do, they won't lead with flattery. They won't try to impress you. They'll simply say something that lets you know they've been watching. They'll reference something specific, something you did that you barely remember, something you thought disappeared into the void. And in that moment, you'll realize everything mattered. Every act of kindness you thought went unnoticed was building toward this. But here's the test within the test, the part most people fail even when they get this far. When this person reveals themselves and extends the opportunity, you'll have a choice. You can stay humble, stay true to the person who earned this moment, or you can let the recognition change you. You can start performing now that you know someone's watching. You can become strategic, calculated, transactional, and they'll be watching for exactly that. Because the opportunity isn't the end of the evaluation, it's the beginning of a new phase. They need to know if you were kind because that's who you are, or if you were kind because you were hoping for exactly this moment. Most people reveal themselves right here. They get the tap on the shoulder and suddenly their entire energy shifts. They start name-dropping, positioning, angling, and just like that, the opportunity evaporates. Because people with real power don't want performers. They want authenticity that can survive visibility. Let me tell you what they've learned about you through their observation. They've learned that you don't need credit to keep going, that validation isn't your fuel source, that you're not doing this to be seen, you're doing this because you couldn't live with yourself if you didn't. And that makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Dangerous to the cynics who say good people finish last. Dangerous to the opportunists who only invest when there's a clear return. Dangerous to the entire system built on quid pro quo, because you've proven that there's still such a thing as acting from principle, from character, from something deeper than calculation. And in a world that's forgotten that's possible, you've become a commodity more valuable than gold. They're going to offer you something. Maybe it's a position, a partnership, access to a network, seed funding for that thing you've been building in silence. Maybe it's mentorship from someone whose name would make others jealous. Maybe it's simply the resources you've needed to amplify the work you're already doing. But whatever form it takes, understand this: it's not charity. It's not a reward for being good. It's an investment in what they believe you'll do with real support behind you. They've seen you build with nothing. Now they want to see what you'll build with something. And the return they're expecting isn't financial, it's legacy. They're building a network of people who operate from integrity, and they need you in it. Not because you asked, not because you performed, but because you earned it when you didn't know anyone was watching. Now here's where it gets interesting. Once you enter this circle, you'll discover something that will blow your mind. You're not the only one. There are others like you scattered everywhere, people who've been moving through the world doing the right thing without applause, and they've all been watched by the same network. This is how real power structures work. Not through gatekeepers and politics and who you know, but through character recognition systems that most people don't even know exist. The people who matter, the ones making actual decisions about who gets opportunities, they're not scrolling social media looking for the loudest voice. They're watching the quiet corners, the moments when people think no one's looking, the actions that cost something but get done anyway. And they're building a parallel ecosystem of individuals who've proven themselves worthy of trust. You're about to understand why your life felt so lonely, why your kindness seemed to put distance between you and everyone else, why you couldn't connect with the opportunists, the performers, the people who only showed up when there was something to gain. You weren't broken. You weren't naive. You were being refined. Every person who used you and walked away was teaching you discernment. Every situation where your kindness went unappreciated was strengthening your commitment to being kind for its own sake. Every moment of isolation was protecting you from contamination by people who would have derailed what was being built in you. You were in training. You just didn't know there was an academy. And the curriculum was your actual life. The Watcher has been waiting for you to reach a certain level of development. They needed to see if you'd quit, if you'd become bitter, if you'd start keeping score, if you'd demand recognition before continuing. They needed to know if your kindness had an expiration date, if it was conditional on being appreciated. And you passed. Not because you're perfect, not because you never struggled, but because even in your struggle, even in your doubt, even in your exhaustion, you kept choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. And that consistency under pressure, that's what they've been hunting for. Because the role they're preparing you for, the platform they're about to give you, it's going to bring pressure you can't imagine yet. And they need to know you won't crack. Here's what most people don't understand about opportunities that come from being watched. They're not about what you'll do for the Watcher. They're about what the Watcher will help you do for others. This isn't about servitude, it's about amplification. They've seen your heart, they've verified your character, and now they want to give you reach. Because kindness at scale, when it's backed by resources and guided by wisdom, that changes everything. One person being kind in obscurity makes ripples. That same person with platform, funding, network, and guidance makes waves. And the world needs waves right now. It needs people who won't be corrupted by visibility, who won't change when the cameras turn on, who'll stay true when they finally have the power to do real damage if they chose wrong. You're being trusted with something most people never get offered, because most people can't handle it without becoming exactly what they claimed to hate. They're going to give you a choice, though. Not everyone who gets watched gets tapped. And not everyone who gets tapped says yes, because accepting this opportunity means accepting responsibility. It means your anonymity ends. It means your quiet life gets complicated. It means people will start watching you who aren't friendly, who look for reasons to tear down what you're building. It means becoming a target for those who profit from cynicism and hopelessness. Saying yes means accepting that you can't just be kind anymore. You have to be strategic about your kindness, so it doesn't get weaponized against you. It means learning to operate in spaces where trust is rare and betrayal is common. It means growing up fast and understanding that visibility changes everything. Some people prefer the simplicity of being unseen, and there's no shame in that. But if you say yes, if you accept what's being offered, your life will never be small again. Let me tell you what happens to people who accept. First, there's the disorientation. Suddenly, you have access to rooms you've only imagined, conversations with people whose names you've only read, resources that make your previous limitations look absurd. And it's overwhelming. You'll question if you deserve it, if you're ready, if it's real. That's normal. Push through it. Second, there's the testing. Not from the person who brought you in, from everyone else in the room. They'll want to know if you're real or if you're another performer who figured out how to fake authenticity long enough to get invited. They'll push you, provoke you, test your boundaries and your principles. Stand firm. This is where most people fail. They get into the room and immediately start shape-shifting to fit in. You were invited because of who you are. The moment you become someone else, you lose the only thing that made you valuable. Third, there's the acceleration. Once you prove you're real, once you demonstrate that visibility hasn't corrupted you, doors start opening at a pace that'll make your head spin. Opportunities you would have spent years working toward just appear. Not because you're lucky, because you're trusted. And trust, in these circles, is the ultimate currency. People with resources are desperate for someone they can trust to deploy those resources wisely. They're surrounded by opportunists and performers. Finding someone who genuinely cares about impact more than credit, that's rare. And when they find it, they protect it, they invest in it, they amplify it. You'll go from struggling to make ends meet to having more resources than you know what to do with. And that's when the real test begins, because now you'll face the temptation everyone faces when they suddenly have more. Will you stay focused on the mission, or will you start collecting comfort? Here's what the Watcher wants you to know before you make your decision. They're not rescuing you. They're recognizing you. There's a difference. Rescue implies you were failing and they're saving you. Recognition means you were succeeding in obscurity and they're making you visible. You built this. You earned this. Every act of kindness, every sacrifice, every moment you chose integrity over advantage, that was you making deposits into an account you didn't know existed. And now it's time to make a withdrawal. Not to spend on yourself, to invest in what you're building. This isn't about personal comfort. This is about giving you the tools to do what you've been trying to do but couldn't because you lacked resources. They're not changing your mission. They're funding it. Let me tell you what they've noticed about you that you haven't noticed about yourself. You have a gift for seeing people, not just looking at them, seeing them. You notice the ones everyone else overlooks. You sense when someone's struggling before they say a word. You have this ability to make people feel less alone just by being present. And you don't do it for effect. You do it because you remember what it felt like to be invisible, to be struggling, to be one bad day away from giving up. And you can't walk past that pain in someone else. You have to stop. You have to help, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. And that's not naivety, that's not weakness, that's a superpower.